The night had been uneventful. Just another evening at her friend's house. Small talk, laughter, nothing out of the ordinary. Lily had spent hours catching up with her best friend, and I had tagged along, nursing a beer while they talked about things I had no real interest in. I smiled when appropriate, nodded at the right moments, but mostly, I just let them have their time. I wasn't in a rush to leave. I wanted her to enjoy herself. By the time we finally headed home, it was late. The roads were mostly empty, streetlights casting long shadows across the pavement. Lily had kicked off her heels and curled up in the passenger seat, humming softly along with the music playing on the radio. She looked peaceful, like she didn't have a care in the world. Then my phone vibrated on the dashboard. At first, I ignored it. I never checked my phone while driving. It was a habit, a rule I always followed. But something about that vibration sent a prickle of unease down my spine. It wasn't a normal message, at least it didn't feel like one. Without thinking, I reached for it, my fingers tightening around the device as I glanced at the screen. "Hey, handsome. I can't stop thinking about last night. When can we do it again?" My grip on the steering wheel tightened so hard my knuckles went white. My first thought, a wrong number. It had to be. Some random woman texting the wrong guy, a misdial, a fluke. It was the only explanation that made sense. But before I could process it, another message appeared. "You left your bracelet in my car. Remind me to give it back before he notices." My stomach lurched. The world outside the windshield blurred for a second, my ears buzzing with a sound I couldn't quite place. My hands were suddenly ice cold, despite the warmth in the car. Lily laughed beside me, oblivious, shifting slightly in her seat. "That was fun," she murmured. I forgot how much I missed spending time with her. I didn't answer. My mind was spinning too fast. This wasn't spam. It wasn't a wrong number. This was real. I forced myself to swallow to keep my voice even. "Yeah, it was nice." Lily turned her head slightly, watching me for a moment. "You okay? You look tense." Tense. I felt like I was unraveling. But I couldn't let her see that. "Not yet. Just tired." I lied, forcing a quick smile. "Long day." She nodded, accepting the excuse without question, and turned her attention back to the road ahead. I glanced back at my phone, my heart hammering. I didn't recognize the number. There was no name attached to it, no immediate clue as to who had sent the messages. But the implications were clear. There was no doubt in my mind who they were meant for, and it sure as hell wasn't me. I took a slow breath, forcing my hands to steady on the wheel. My thoughts were racing, piecing together fragments of the past few weeks, searching for anything that could explain this. Lily had been coming home late more often. At first, it was small things, running errands, catching up with friends, a sudden increase in work obligations. I hadn't thought much of it. I trusted her. But now I wasn't sure of anything. I wanted to ask her, right there, right then. I wanted to shove my phone in her face and demand an explanation. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I exhaled slowly, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. I needed to be sure. So I did the only thing I could. I let her sit there, humming softly to herself, pretending everything was fine. I let her believe I was none the wiser. And while she drifted further into the comfort of her own world, I quietly prepared to tear it apart. By the time we pulled into the driveway, my heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear the music playing softly through the car speakers. The messages burned in the back of my mind, each word carved into my brain like a scar I'd never be able to erase. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips as I turned off the engine, my knuckles still white from gripping the wheel. Lily stretched her arms above her head and let out a small sigh. "That was nice," she said, her voice soft and content. "I should really do that more often." I nodded, forcing myself to move, to act normal. My movements felt stiff, mechanical, like I wasn't really in control of my own body. I got out of the car, locked it, and followed her inside, my mind still racing. The second we stepped through the door, she kicked off her shoes, her bare feet making soft padding noises against the hardwood floor as she walked toward the kitchen. "You want some tea before bed?" she asked over her shoulder. I watched her for a moment, my throat dry. How could she be so calm? So casual? She had no idea what I had just seen. No idea that her entire world was balancing on the edge of a knife. I forced myself to shake my head. No, I'm good. I think I'll just shower and head to bed. She smiled, reaching for the kettle. Okay, babe. I won't be long. I nodded again, turning away before she could see the way my face twisted, before she could see the barely contained rage simmering beneath my skin. I walked toward the bedroom, my steps slow and deliberate, as if I were moving through water. As soon as I was inside, I locked the door behind me. I stood there for a moment, the darkness of the room pressing in around me. My breathing was shallow, uneven. My hands were shaking. I pulled my phone from my pocket and stared at the screen. The messages still there, glaring at me like an open wound. Hey, handsome. I can't stop thinking about last night. When can we do it again? You left your bracelet in my car. Remind me to give it back before he notices. I swallowed hard, my mind spinning with possibilities. Who the hell was this? Who was she with? How long had this been going on? I needed answers. I opened my call log, scrolling through the most recent numbers. Lily's name was there, of course, along with a few coworkers, my brother, and some friends. But nothing out of the ordinary. Then I checked her messages. Her phone was still in the kitchen, sitting on the counter while she made her tea. She trusted me. She had no reason to think I would ever look. But I did. I tapped on her name, scrolling through the messages. Nothing suspicious. Just our usual exchanges, grocery lists, reminders, little inside jokes we had built over the years. I backed out and checked her call history. My stomach clenched. There it was. An unknown number. Not once, not twice. Every day. Morning. Afternoon. Late at night. Every single time I wasn't around. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. I clenched my jaw so tightly I thought my teeth might crack. The sound of the kettle whistling snapped me out of my trance. Lily was still in the kitchen, still completely unaware. I took a slow, deep breath, forcing myself to think, to be smart. If I confronted her now, she would lie. I knew she would. I needed proof. Real proof. I set my phone down and ran a hand over my face, my mind racing. I had to be careful. If I tipped her off too soon, she would just get better at hiding it. I glanced at the dresser, at the small wooden box where we kept random things. Spare keys, receipts, and most importantly, the spare phone I used for work. My fingers curled around it before I even realized what I was doing. I turned it on, the screen flickering to life. A plan was already forming in my head. I was going to find out exactly who had sent those messages. And when I did, Lily wouldn't see it coming. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the spare phone in my hands, my mind racing through every possible way this could go. If I pushed too hard too soon, she'd cover her tracks. If I waited too long, I might miss my chance. I needed to be careful, methodical. I needed to play this the right way. The first thing I did was save the unknown number in my phone under a random name. Something harmless. Something she wouldn't notice. Dave Work. Simple. Non-threatening. If she saw it pop up, she wouldn't think twice. Then I texted. Who is this? I hesitated before sending it. If this was just some mistake, some misunderstanding, I'd know soon enough. But my gut told me otherwise. My gut told me this was exactly what it looked like. I hit send. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the message was marked as read. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared at the screen, waiting. A response came almost immediately. Haha, very funny. You know who this is. You miss me already? My stomach twisted into a knot so tight I thought I might be sick. I forced myself to breathe, to stay calm, to think. I needed more. I typed quickly. Of course. Just being careful. You know how it is. Another response. I know. I don't want to mess things up for you. But last night was amazing. I can still smell you on me. My hands clenched into fists so tight I could feel my nails digging into my palms. I closed my eyes for a second, forcing the rage down. Think. Be smart. I typed again. Wish I could see you now. Another read receipt. Another message. You can. Say the word, and I'll come pick you up. My jaw tightened. Whoever this was, they were close. Too close. Close enough to come get her in the middle of the night. I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering. I needed to see who this was. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. I took a breath and typed out my next message. Tomorrow. Same place. It was a risk. If I pushed too hard, asked too much, they might get suspicious. But if they answered, I'd have my next lead. The dots appeared instantly, the sign that they were typing. Yes, you know I can't say no to you. Same time. I forced my fingers to stay steady as I typed. Yeah, can't wait. I waited a second before adding, remind me though, what car should I look for again? It was a long sh*T. They might not take the bait. But I had to try. The dots appeared again. You really are tired, huh? The white BMW, babe. Same as last time. You always say you love how smooth the ride is, winky face. The white BMW. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. There was only one person I knew who drove a white BMW. Someone I never would have suspected. Someone I had trusted. I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. I had my answer. And now I had a name. I sat there, staring at the screen, my entire body numb. A white BMW. It wasn't just any car. I knew exactly who it belonged to. My mind ran through every interaction, every conversation I'd ever had with him, every moment he had stood in my house, laughing with me, drinking my beer, pretending to be my friend. Eric, Lily's coworker, the guy I had never given a second thought to. He was around sometimes, harmless, or so I had thought. I had shaken his hand. I had joked with him. He had looked me in the eye while he was sleeping with my wife. I gripped my phone so tightly my knuckles ached. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, hot and fast, my breathing shallow. I wanted to smash the phone against the wall, to throw it across the room, to let this rage consume me completely. But I didn't, because this wasn't the time for anger. This was the time for control. I had to be smart. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, forcing my shaking hands to relax. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I had to keep this going. I had to see how deep this ran. Can't wait to see you again, I typed, each word leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. Eric responded immediately. Me too. I swear you're all I think about. The way you moan my name? F***CK. Lily, I didn't finish reading. I locked the phone and set it down on the nightstand, my breathing ragged. Lily was still in the kitchen, completely oblivious to the fact that I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't come back from. I needed more proof. I unlocked my regular phone, the one with our shared accounts, and opened her social media. She wasn't stupid, there was nothing suspicious there. Just the usual posts. Pictures of us, old vacation sh*TS, comments from friends and family. But then I checked her messages. She had deleted everything. Not a single chat with Eric. Not even work-related ones. I clenched my jaw. That alone was proof. No one erases innocent conversations. I switched to my laptop and logged into our phone bill. I scrolled through the call logs, looking for his number. And there it was. Every day. Multiple times. Morning. Afternoon. Night. Every single time I wasn't home. My vision blurred. My stomach twisted. I had been blind, completely F***king blind. I closed the laptop, rubbing a hand down my face. What the hell was I supposed to do now? Confront her? Drag her out of the kitchen and shove my phone in her face? Demand answers? No. She would lie. She would cry. She would spin it into something that wasn't real. I needed undeniable proof. I needed to catch her in a way that left no room for manipulation, no room for excuses. I grabbed my phone and texted Eric again. Tomorrow. Usual spot. He sent back a winking emoji. Disgust crawled up my throat. Tomorrow everything would change. And Lily had no idea. I barely slept that night. I lay in bed next to Lily, staring at the ceiling, my mind running in circles. She shifted in her sleep, rolling toward me, her body warm against mine. I flinched at the contact. I used to love moments like this, the quiet and asterisk Macy of just existing together. Now it made my skin crawl. I turned my head slightly, watching her in the dim glow of the streetlights filtering through the blinds. She looked peaceful, her breathing soft and steady, completely at ease. Meanwhile, I was unraveling. Morning couldn't come fast enough. When the alarm went off, I was already awake. I shut it off quickly before Lily could stir and slipped out of bed. My movements were careful, controlled. I didn't want her to sense anything was wrong. I went through my usual routine: shower, coffee, checking emails. Lily wandered into the kitchen a little while later, still in her robe, yawning as she reached for a mug. "Morning," she murmured, voice thick with sleep. I forced a smile. "Morning." She leaned against the counter, sipping her coffee, her eyes flicking to me. "You okay? You seem quiet." I shrugged. "Didn't sleep great." She smirked. "Told you not to drink coffee so late." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Yeah, that must be it." She didn't push. Why would she? She had no idea that everything had changed. I glanced at my phone. Eric would be expecting her tonight, and I would be expecting him. The hours crawled by. I went to work, sat through meetings, nodded at the right moments, but my mind was elsewhere. I kept checking my phone, making sure he hadn't canceled, making sure she hadn't changed her plans. But nothing changed. Everything was still on. By the time evening rolled around, I was ready. Lily had already told me she'd be going out with friends after work. She said it casually, like it was nothing, like it wasn't a carefully constructed lie she had told a dozen times before. I played my part. I kissed her goodbye, told her to have fun, even watched her walk out the door like I always did. Then I followed her. She didn't go to her friend's house. She didn't go anywhere near it. Instead, she drove across town to a hotel. A nice one, tucked away just enough to avoid too much attention. She parked near the back entrance, her car half hidden in the shadows. And then a white BMW pulled up beside her. My breath turned to ice in my lungs as I watched Eric step out. He walked around the car, grinning, leaning in to kiss her the second she stepped out. She melted into him. I felt sick. Even though I had known, even though I had been prepared, seeing it with my own eyes was something else entirely. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly I thought I might snap it in half. They walked inside together, his hand on the small of her back, laughing, completely oblivious. I sat there for a moment, my pulse roaring in my ears. Then I got out of my car. This wasn't just about catching her anymore. It was about ending this. For good. I stepped out of my car, keeping my breathing steady, my mind focused. My hands clenched at my sides as I watched them disappear into the hotel lobby. The weight of what I was about to do settled over me like a lead blanket. But there was no hesitation, no second guessing. I walked toward the entrance, my steps slow, deliberate. My heart pounded against my ribs, but outwardly, I was calm. I had to be. I couldn't let rage take over, not yet. Inside, the lobby was dimly lit, elegant in a way that was meant to be discreet. A place for people who didn't want to be seen. My stomach twisted at the thought of how many times she had been here before. The woman at the front desk barely glanced up as I passed, more interested in her computer screen than the man about to watch his marriage implode. Fine by me. The last thing I needed was attention. I scanned the room, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then I spotted them. Lily and Eric stood near the elevators, their heads close together as they whispered. His hand rested low on her back, too familiar, too comfortable. Lily laughed softly, tilting her face up to his. She looked happy, not nervous, not guilty, just happy. The sight of it nearly knocked the air out of my lungs. I forced my feet to move. They didn't notice me at first. They were too wrapped up in each other, too lost in whatever fantasy they had built between them. But then, right as the elevator doors opened, Lily turned her head, and her entire body went still. Her smile vanished. Her eyes widened. I could almost hear the sharp inhale of breath she took as she locked eyes with me. Eric followed her gaze, frowning slightly, until recognition dawned on his face. His shoulders stiffened. He took a small step back like a man realizing he had just walked into a trap. Smart. Lily's lips parted, but no sound came out. I took another step closer, closing the distance between us. "Hey, babe," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Having a good night?" Lily's throat bobbed as she swallowed. I can explain." I laughed. Actually laughed. Eric shifted beside her, his posture tightening. "Look, man, maybe we should." I cut him off with a sharp look. "You should shut the hell up." He did. Lily reached out as if to touch me, but I stepped back before she could. "Mark," she tried again, her voice barely above a whisper. "I swear, it's not what you think." I tilted my head, considering. "Really?" I pulled out my phone, held up the screen. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what I think." She flinched. Eric exhaled sharply, rubbing the back of his neck. "Listen, man, let's not do this here." I ignored him. My eyes stayed on Lily. "I want to hear you say it," I said quietly. Her breath shuddered. "Mark, say it." She hesitated, looking around, as if searching for an escape. There wasn't one. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Can we just go somewhere and talk?" I shook my head. "We're past talking, Lily." She blinked rapidly, like she was fighting tears. Good. Let her cry. Let her feel even a fraction of what she had just put me through. Eric cleared his throat. "Look, man, I don't want any trouble." I turned on him so fast he actually flinched. "You don't want trouble?" I repeated, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You've been screwing my wife behind my back, and now you don't want trouble?" A muscle twitched in his jaw. "It's complicated." "Yeah." I stepped closer, forcing him back. "Then let me uncomplicate it for you." He held up a hand, but I wasn't interested in his *T attempts to calm the situation. My chest burned with fury, my vision sharpening to a razor's edge. I leaned in, lowering my voice. "You're going to walk away right now, and you're never going to speak to her again." He hesitated. I clenched my fists, forcing my voice to stay even. "If you don't, I swear to God, I'll make sure your life burns down around you." Eric swallowed. He knew. I could see it in his face, the understanding that I wasn't making some empty threat, that I wasn't the kind of man you get over without consequences. He looked at Lily. She stared at him, desperate, pleading. But he wasn't an idiot. Without another word, he turned and walked out of the hotel. Lily made a small noise in the back of her throat, like she had just realized how completely alone she was. I watched him disappear through the doors. Then I turned back to my wife. She took a shaky breath. "Mark, please." I shook my head. "I hope it was worth it." Then I walked away. I didn't look back. Not when I walked out of the hotel lobby. Not when I stepped into the cold night air. Not when I got into my car and gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Lily didn't follow me. She didn't chase after me, screaming apologies or begging for another chance. Maybe she was still standing there in the lobby, too shocked to move. Maybe she had already gone upstairs to whatever room they had booked, sitting on the edge of a neatly made bed, head in her hands, wondering how the hell she was going to fix this. But I didn't care. I started the car, the engine roaring to life, and pulled out of the parking lot without hesitation. The road ahead was dark and empty, streetlights casting long shadows against the pavement. My mind was just as empty, a void where my thoughts used to be. I should have been raging. I should have been falling apart. But I felt nothing. Not yet. I made it halfway home before the weight of it started to settle. Lily had cheated on me. Lily, my wife, the woman I had built my life with, the woman I had trusted without hesitation. She had lied to my face for God knows how long. She had smiled at me over breakfast, kissed me before bed, told me she loved me. All while sneaking off with Eric, while laughing with him in hotel lobbies, while letting him touch her in ways only I was supposed to. The realization hit like a punch to the stomach. I had spent years with her. Years thinking we were building something real, something solid. And the whole time, She had been throwing it away for some secret rendezvous in a damn hotel. My grip on the wheel tightened. She had looked me in the eye and tried to lie, even when she was caught, even when the evidence was right in front of her. I should have seen it sooner. The late nights, the sudden interest in girls' nights, the way she had started pulling away from me without explanation, always just a little too tired, always just a little too distracted. I had ignored it, convinced myself it was just a rough patch, convinced myself that if I tried a little harder, if I loved her a little more, she would come back to me. What a F***king joke. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I was shaking. Not from anger, not from grief, just exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that settles deep in your bones, that makes it hard to even move. I sat there for a moment, staring at the house. Our house. The place we had filled with memories, with plans for the future, with promises that no longer meant a damn thing. I needed to get inside. I needed to think. I stepped out of the car and shut the door behind me, the sound echoing through the quiet neighborhood. The porch light flickered slightly as I approached the front door, keys clutched in my hand. I hesitated for only a second before unlocking it and stepping inside. Silence. The house felt different, colder, like it already knew what had happened. I locked the door behind me, tossed my keys on the counter, and let out a slow breath. My entire body ached, like I had been in a fight. In a way, I was about to head to the bedroom when my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out, staring at the screen. Lily, Mark, please. Can we talk? I exhaled sharply. My jaw clenched. I should have ignored it. I should have tossed my phone onto the couch and left it there for the rest of the night. But instead, I typed out one single word. No. Then I turned off my phone. I didn't want to hear her voice. I didn't want to listen to her try to explain, to justify, to spin some excuse that would only make me angrier. There was nothing she could say that would change what had happened. Nothing. I walked into the bedroom, the place that used to feel like ours but now felt tainted, and sat on the edge of the bed. My head dropped into my hands. Tomorrow I would figure out what came next. But tonight I just needed to breathe. I woke up to an empty bed. Not that I expected Lily to be there, but the absence of her felt heavier than I thought it would. The sheets were still slightly rumpled on her side, a cruel reminder that, until last night, I had been sleeping next to someone I didn't really know. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember when everything had started to go wrong. Had it been slow, creeping in over time, or had it happened all at once, and I had been too blind to see it? Maybe it didn't matter. The only thing that mattered now was what I was going to do next. I checked my phone. 6 missed calls from Lily. 3 texts. Lily, Mark, please don't shut me out. Lily, can we just talk? Please? Lily, I know I hurt you, but I love you. Don't let this be how we end. I stared at the words. Numb. Love. What a joke. I set the phone down without replying. After showering, I got dressed, grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, and started packing. Not a lot, just what I needed for a few days. I didn't want to be here when she came back. Didn't want to sit across from her while she cried, while she told me it was a mistake, that she didn't mean to hurt me. She had meant it. Every choice she made, every lie she told, every time she had been with him, it had all been deliberate. People don't just fall into affairs. It wasn't an accident. It was something she had chosen over and over again. By the time I zipped up the bag, I had already made my decision. This wasn't something we could come back from. I walked into the kitchen, grabbed my laptop from the table, and searched for a divorce lawyer. She had ended our marriage the moment she let another man touch her. I was just making it official. Before I left, I took my wedding ring off and placed it on the kitchen counter. A part of me wanted to throw it, to smash it into the wall, but I didn't. There was no point in anger. She wasn't worth that. I was halfway to the door when